Well, what a week, what a year we had this week.
Yes,
Feel like a
sir.
whole week. Like we went through a whole year this last past week.
Yes, we
Honey,
did.
it's been some of everything.
It's been a mess, I tell you. But now we're back. Now we've spring is right around the corner, like
I was
tomorrow.
just fixing to say that 7 degrees we had today is more like Southeast Texas, honey.
Yes, I'm telling you, I tell you, great. I'm glad I didn't. You guys didn't get in the busted pipes and nobody froze to death in your family. But we had a. I mean, we'll get to that subject one day soon. We have a show on that. Talk about that at a later
Right. We're
date.
gonna just have to talk about all the failures and the
Yes,
breakdown
right.
with Greg Abbott and the rest of these people and ERCOT and who all ever
Yeah,
else we need to fire
what?
and get rid of.
Yeah, but they lying self. But anyway, well, Francis, how are your past week?
Oh, you know what? My week was pretty good. We
Mm-hmm.
weathered the storm. I still had to go in and work and everything, but all good on our end.
Okay, then.
Jasper got about 4 or 5 inches of snow.
Wow, wow.
So
Well, Ladonna, you have a gig on Wednesday, right?
Yes, we do. So we are very pleased to announce that our programming that we had for last Wednesday with Stacy Lewis Jr. and Albert Turner, what's going to happen is we're going to move that group to Wednesday. So the scheduled programming that we had, it's going to be this Wednesday at Nails Sports Bar and Grill. That's 2820 Washington Boulevard. And it'll be like a little meet and greet, and people will get to come out and speak with the candidates. And we'll have gumbo, and we'll have like a little forum where they can kind of chit chat. And we're looking forward to that.
Well, great, great, great. Let me let our listeners and to know that Knowledge is Power Podcast Live is now available on Facebook, Spotify, iHeartRadio, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter, and Google Play, and also iTunes. So if you want to listen to a show, you can go to one of those sites and and search for Knowledge is Power Podcast Live.
Yes, Knowledge is Power Podcast Live is a platform to share important information by educating Southeast Texas African American communities with valuable information on health, education, finance, politics, and business. We pride ourselves on keeping our hand on the pulse of the community. We're bringing you everything that's going on in and around the Jefferson County area. And we are super excited about our guest tonight. We have AUDWIN Samuel from Ward
Three,
73.
three, yes, yes. I knew
So
you was
we're
gonna have a
looking
problem with
forward
that.
to that. We're looking forward to that tonight.
And yeah, we're going to be speaking with Audwin Samuel. He's incumbent from Ward 3, the Beaumont City Councilman, and for this coming May election. So we're going to get pumped up and ready for those to know your candidates uh, and get out and put out the vote. So we'll bring our big time guests right after this. Welcome to Knowledge is Power Podcast Live with your host, Tony Redfro, and my co-hosts, LaDonna Sherwood and Francis Larkins.
Knowledge is Power Podcast Live starts now.
Big shout out to some of our listeners already. King Leon Ruffett and Lydia Brown, Lady D. Allen, Arlene. I'm messing up this word. I'm chopping it up today. Terry Roy and Stacy Lewis Jr. Guys, so thank you guys for being a listener. Just want to give you a shout out, let you know we hear you, we see you. You got any comments? Drop it in the comment box. Alwyn Samuel, our guest tonight on Knowledge is Power Podcast Live, Beaumont City Councilman of Ward 3. Hello, Alwyn.
Good evening, Tony. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great.
Great, great. Lady, LaDonna, Ms. Larkin, Good to see you.
Good evening. Same.
Yes, great, man. I'm glad to have you.
Hello. My mic was muted. Hello, guys.
Oh, well, that's unusual. That's usual, but let's chop it up with my cousin Arwen Samuel. And Arwen, you are let everybody know who Arwen Samuel is, but we all know. But let's hear a little bit there.
Well, I'm a guy from, I was born in Newton, Texas,
What?
1954. Yeah, I'm a Newton boy, country boy. I came to
Probably
Beaumont,
related.
and yes, I came to
Don't
Beaumont
say
with my
that.
parents. They were both teachers, so they couldn't get a job in the same city because that was a colored school district. So my father came to Beaumont. My mother, she went to Carthage, and eventually the whole family was able to come to Beaumont. And I've been in Beaumont pretty much since that time. I went to the local high schools, Beaumont Independent School District, graduated from Beaumont High in '72. Went on Lamar University where I matriculated there and played football at Lamar. And I went on from there to Thurgood Marshall School of Law. And J.W. Albert is one person that was a friend of the family. And he said, to whom much is given, much is required. You've been given a lot by Beaumont. It's time for you to give back. And that's when I got involved, ran for the Beaumont Independent School District Board of the Trustees. I was successful with that, and I served on the school board until they dissolved BISD. They dissolved the school district. We had a majority on, it was moving toward a majority. They dissolved the district and then attached the Beaumont Independent School District to the South Park Independent School District, but they used the South Park Independent School District Board to run the school district at that time. So rather than seeking re-election to the school board, I ran for city council, and I've been working with several folks in the community before that, like your Sonny Perkins and Tobe Duhan and Murray Frank and some of Al Price, those guys. And they gave me the opportunity to get involved. And I got involved and I enjoyed it. And I felt like that was my calling. And I went on the Beaumont City Council in 1984. And I stayed there pretty much from that time, with the exception of 6 years, I was out. I left to run for another office, and I came back. I was appointed to the council, and I've been back since then. That's AUDWIN in a nutshell. I've served the city pretty much
Francis.
most of my life.
Well, Mr. Samuel, I'm sitting here in awe knowing that you are a country boy. I am not surprised at all, as you are one of my very favorite council members. I thoroughly enjoy seeing you on Tuesdays, take care of your community. Can you tell me a little bit before I ask my first question, where your ward actually runs? So our listeners can have an idea of what coverage it belongs to AUDWIN, Samuel.
Sure. I have everything from south, from the mobile refinery, all through the south end, all downtown to the river, all the way back to the LNVA Canal in the north. Then I move over. 4th Street is the dividing line for me on the south west. So 4th Street is my dividing line, and Washington Boulevard is also my dividing line. Okay. I have the largest district in the city of Beaumont. Ward 3 is the largest district, but it goes from the south end to the north end, all the way over to 4th Street and the downtown area.
Okay. So tell us why you are seeking re-election.
Well, again, I do believe to whom much is given, much is required. And I now believe that right now we're in some very trying times. We're in some times that there's a lot of division within our city, within our community. And there are those that would like to put us on the back, my community, Ward 3. in the back burner. And I believe it's the time that we need experience, someone that understands the process. Some folks say the game, and sometimes it is a game. So it's not, there's a lot of undercurrents that people don't see, people don't understand. And sometimes it takes just having seen a thing or two to understand a thing or two. So I just feel like now is not the time for me to walk away. And I have a lot of fight left. There are too many fights out there for our community. And there are too many obstacles out there attempting to disrupt the progress that we're making in unifying our city and bettering our city.
Yes, sir. I want to speak to the point of you saying like now is not the time for change, really, because I completely agree with you. Considering the climate of our community right now, I do believe that we do, it is important to have that experience because it's such a tender time. So completely agree.
Well, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it's not a time for change, but it's not a time for blanket change all at once.
Skill set do you bring in addition to experience?
Pardon me?
Could you guys hear me?
Can you state that question again?
Yeah, I was going to say, in addition to experience, can you tell us what skills do you bring?
Well, I say this, one of the most important skills I bring is my analytical skills. I've been a practicing attorney, a trial lawyer for over 25 years. And that means I understand that some things you can pick up just on the fly, but I always believe you have to be prepared. You have to study. And there's a method in which you have to study. And that's what a lot of people don't see, the time that I have to spend in study. We have a budget. This is our budget binder. I have to understand it. I have to know the process. I have to know the rules. One of the things is they try to catch certain people with the rules or not understanding the rules. So I have to understand the rules in order to stay in the game, because I've seen too many people taken out because of that. And by understanding the rules and the rules of engagement, along with the fact that, I've served on the national level and on the state level with our national organization. I was the president of the National Black Caucus of local elected officials. And I don't say that just for boasting. I say that because the relationships that I've built over time on the national and state level, that has allowed me to learn things that's ordinarily passed on with your colleagues in the district in which you live, or the city in which you live, or the state in which you live. But I didn't have a U.S. representative that would call me up and share with me how to get through the red tape in Washington or how to get through things in Austin. But it was through the caucuses, the National Black Caucus of local elected officials, the Texas Association of City Council members, the Black members of that association. So it's the relationships that go along with the experience and the knowledge.
Councilman AUDWIN Samuel, what are the major issues facing Beaumont?
I would say public works and public safety. When I say public works, one of the most crucial things that we have to continue to work on is our water and sewer and our streets and drainage. Mm-hmm. Those are two systems. It's like the veins in our body. It's like our central nervous system or our digestive system. These are systems that allow us to continue to operate on a day-to-day basis. And it can't be taken for granted. The city of Beaumont is an old city, and we have old pipes, old lines that we're continuously replacing. And we will never catch up with it, because as one area, as we implement new lines, new sewer systems, new water systems, put new pipes in. There's another part of the city where the older pipes are beginning to deteriorate. So it's an ongoing process. And that's not something that's just unique to Beaumont. That's something that is happening across the state, and it's across the country. And from my service and talking with other council members across the country, across the state, we fare much better than many. Not to say we don't have things to gain. We don't have a long way to go. Yes, we do. But I've seen worse.
Francis.
Yes. So, and I think you answered this, and I've come to my conclusion. What makes you the better candidate for this seat?
Okay, repeat that because you're breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry about that. As I stated, I've already come to my conclusion, but what makes you the better candidate for this seat?
My knowledge of the system, my knowledge of the workings, my knowledge of the departments, my knowledge of how the city council works with the city manager and the administrative offices, and my ability to even look beyond those that I work with on a day-to-day basis. I can pick up the phone and call Commissioner Rodney Ellis over in Houston, or Sylvester Turner over in Houston, because we know each other. We've known each other for years. I can call Washington, D.C. and speak to Sheila Jackson Lee if I can't get in touch with my congressman here. So it's relationships and the knowledge. One of the things as a member of the National Black Caucus of Local Elected Officials, there's a school that we have courses on the 7 areas in which any city has to deal with, whether it be budget and finance, public safety, crime prevention, transportation infrastructure, technology, communications. There are courses that's available that I've taken advantage of to better serve my community. Many of the ideas that I get or I submit to our city manager or to the council, those are not ideas that came from AUDWIN's head necessarily. Those are ideas that I've seen in workshops on our national and state level, and I've seen it work in other cities. And I say, why not Beaumont? And I will connect our city staff here in Beaumont with the staff where there's been a successful program implemented. And we've been able to do that over time. For example, not too many other cities face the natural disasters that we face. So I was asked to come to Washington and testify before Congress about some of the problems that existed with FEMA and getting our help here in some of the previous storms. And as a result of that, some of them took what we did right to implement in their cities, because we don't have to wait in Beaumont. We don't have to wait for help from FEMA before we begin to recuperate, before we begin to clean up our city and get trees cut, get things off the street, and work on some of the failures that we've experienced. Because we have a good fund balance, because our city manager has been prudent in preparing our budgets. So we have that to do, and we just wait for reimbursement from the national and state government as it comes down, but we don't wait for them to get to do the work. So those are all, I say it's the relationships and the understanding of who you can reach and how you have to go about reaching them.
You know, Ward 3 is in need of so many things.
Mm-hmm.
And it's, I know you mentioned that the city is, Beaumont is an old city and you've got old infrastructure. What is going to take to make an improvement in Ward 3 in those areas?
I think it's going to take maintaining a focus. We have to, it took me a while to learn to somewhat ignore some of the distractions. There was one, as soon as they came on, the first thing they did was eliminated the city working with the school district in providing lunches in Magnolia Park for the kids for the summer youth program. That was destroyed. We had an agreement, an intergovernmental agreement with BISD to help them with street crossings to make sure our children were safe. That was eliminated because there were some on council didn't feel like that was a position of the city to do. Along with that, little things like taking basketball goals out of the parks, lowering the goals in certain areas so that it would distract us from going to the parks. We also had a mentorship program, a tutorial program. We were working with BISD in a contract, the senior corps, where the city helped fund volunteer seniors who retired teachers that would go into the schools to tutor our young people. They felt there was some that came in and felt that that's the job of the school district and not the city. But those were working relationships where we both saw our kids, not BISD kids, but our kids, the kids of Beaumont. So those were the distractions that we continue to see. And when you're focused on the fires that's being spit around you, you lose focus on the overall goal in front of you. And I think that's one of the things we have to get back to, focusing on the goals for the entire city of Beaumont and not having to deal with these distractions going on around us.
Can you
Francis?
tell us a little?
Okay, go ahead, LaDonna. I'm sorry.
Can you tell us a little bit about the city council government setup? How does the city and the council work together?
Yeah. Okay. You know, I hear this. I've heard people say, "Well, what are?" They ask some of these young folks, "What are you going to do when you get in? What's the first thing on your agenda to get done?" It's not this Beaumont City Council is the legislative body of the city. We deal with the overall goals and objectives of the city. We approve the budget. We submit to the city manager the desires of the people, not individuals, because on council, I can't bring anything to the table by myself. I have to have a second to bring it to the table. That's just for us to discuss implementing it or putting it into the budget or consideration as a program that we will take up as a city. So it takes two people to get it to the table. Once it's on the table and we've discussed it, it takes 4 affirmative votes to pass. So if I can't get 4 votes, it won't pass. So we are strictly the legislative body. The actual running of the city is done by the city manager and his department heads. We approve those things that the city manager wants to do, not day-to-day operations, but the budgetary items and those items that will come into the form of request of funds for future projects as well as future programs. So it's the administration and the city manager runs the city. The city council proposes resolutions and ordinances for the city administration to abide by.
Mr. Councilman, let's go back to infrastructure. And I need here just a little bit on here. Are there any federal grants that can help with these infrastructure problems that we have in not just in Ward 3, but in the city of Beaumont?
Well, there are, but they're not like they used to be. If you recall, Tony, the south end of Beaumont at one time was all ditches and open ditches and streets. During the first part of my term, at that time, I asked the city manager to look to the National League of Cities, to the programs that were being provided by community development block grants. Johnny Beatty was working in that department at one time. So we were able to get curb and gutters almost throughout the South End, cement streets, concrete streets, curb and gutters throughout the South End as a result of community development block grants. Those are federal funds that we have to pay a small portion of the project cost as payment, and the federal government subsidizes the remainder of that project. So those funds are not as readily available as they used to be. So we have to look to other sources, but we have individuals in the city, that's what they do. They look for grants that we could be applicable, that could be applicable to Beaumont and we could qualify for, and we seek those grants. That's what the city manager does. His staff, he has a staff member doing that for each department.
I have another question before we go to, I guess it's Francis or LaDonna going to ask the question, but this is not it's not part of our format, but I'm going to come outside the box here and going to ask you a question here because it has a lot to do with the city of Beaumont progress. And I know the answer before I ask this, but I want the people of Beaumont, the taxpayers of Beaumont, to understand that when you say it takes more than one, it takes two to bring it to the board, to the council, and take four to pass. But I want to know behind the scene, and I remember you just said something behind the scene. I want to ask that question: is that will there be more African Americans or people of color that can be placed on the city committees and advisory boards for the city of Beaumont? And we're lacking that, and also contracts. Minority contracts, winning bids and contracts. Is that possible?
Okay, I can answer that for you. At one time, I asked that we have a minority business development program, and there were set-asides. The federal government, the court system that ruled that you no longer can have minority set-asides. You can't discriminate either way. So as far as getting minority contractors involved, I can introduce them to the departments that's needed, and they have to go through the bid process like anyone else. Now, there are minority vendors, but it's not based on race. It's based on minority status, whether it be female, disabled, or by the race. But we cannot discriminate simply by race. They can be on a minority contractors list. But they have to qualify as a minority contractor. But they will still have to go through the process. There are no set-asides for minorities. So that's one thing. You talk about minorities on some of the boards and commissions in the city. Yes, each council member normally have two appointments to the various boards. It depends on which board it is. But most of the boards and commissions in the city of Beaumont have each council member appoints two, and sometimes the mayor has the ability to appoint four. So most of my appointments are long-term. Most of my appointments, majority of my appointments are people of color, not because I just chose people of color, but I chose people that I know that will have an interest or they work in that particular area, and I know they're committed to it. Because one of the things that can be done, somebody can go and put somebody on a board or committee that look like you and me, but don't have the heart for the people that look like you and me. So just because of color, that doesn't turn me. That's not what turns me on.
So all those appointments are long-term, or they are term limits?
They're 2 years, not
2 years.
Now, don't get that, not term limits, Tony.
I'm sorry.
They're 2-year terms.
2-year terms. That's what I meant. Right. I'm sorry. Yes, you're right. You're absolutely right. That's what I want to know. And I should just suggest something. and making sure that we get minority contractors notified, that we the city put together a minority contractor directory so that when everyone can be notified when there's an open bid. That's
Well,
coming
let me
up.
ask you this, Tony. Let me ask you this. That's a need. That's a desire. But who's going to do it? They leave it to somebody else to do. Who's going to put the list together? We as a community, we have to begin to do things for ourselves. We can't sit back and wait for other people to do things that we need to be doing ourselves. That's just my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen it too long. Too many people talk about what we ought to do. But when it comes time to get it done, you look for help, you look for them. Where are they? LaDonna, you know what I'm saying. You know,
Yes, I do.
so we have to quit talking about doing things, and we have to start being about doing things. Right now, we're in the midst of elections. Everybody that's running has a need for a volunteer. I applaud all these young people for getting out there doing what they're doing. But they have to understand that they will see. I'm sure if you talk with some of those young folks that have run before, you'll hear the same thing from the AJs and some of those. It's easy to talk.
Even me.
And talk, even you.
Yes.
But when it comes time to knock on doors, when it comes time to work, when it comes time to even fill up the council chambers, if there's an issue in the majority community that is of concern to them, you can't get in the council chambers. We wait until it's on our front step before we want to get involved. We got to get beyond that. Right now. Oh, I'm not going to even talk about it. Okay, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. This is
Go ahead. That's what Knowledge is Power
Hey,
Podcast
hey.
Live is about. We here for you, baby.
Hey, we have to begin to think about what we do. In some of these races, what happens when we divide our votes?
Go ahead.
We just allow. Okay, I'm sorry.
Hey, go ahead.
Ask
Go
your
ahead.
question.
Speak it. Free your mind and your ass will follow. That's our motto. So
Well,
let it swing.
Well,
But true. Yeah.
Well, I'm trying. As I've gotten older, I'm trying to calm down, and I'm trying not to.
Well, we just picked it up right where you left off because I've had several conversations and I say things, and sometimes I'm like, if you really mean Beaumont and you really want the best thing for Beaumont, then we should have came together. Even if we had to duke it out privately, when we put together a team, we should have ran one candidate in these races, and we should have been unified on what we're doing, because united we stand and divided we fall. And sometimes they don't want to hear what you're saying, but whether you're young or whether you old, it don't take a rocket scientist to see that the numbers don't lie. I tell them this all the time. Women lie, men lie, but numbers don't lie. You cannot run all of these different candidates and tell me that you mean Beaumont. You don't mean what's best for Beaumont because you're not helping us, baby. You hurting us. Come on now.
Preach. But we must continue to work together toward a common goal. And I applaud this new movement. It's needed. I've had internship programs throughout the years. Interns at my law office. I've had interns at City Hall. I've seen them, but the thing is, many of them move on to other areas so that they can shine.
And you know what? That's one of our questions. What do you plan on doing to improve youth engagement or keep some of that talented youth group here in Beaumont? Like, I know that you're Ward 3, but Beaumont overall, what should we be doing to kind of keep some of our local homegrown rising stars and shiners right here locally to better our community?
Well, LaDonna, it comes back to us. I can do it. I've been doing it for the past 30 years. Everybody out there won't see it, but there are probably 10, 15 folks that have come through Beaumont, come through my office. They know. But I can't be the only one doing that. That's what we as a whole, as a community, have to be doing, reaching to the young people and helping them along the way. You know, we're in the microwave, this new millennial, and I'm sorry, but I call it like I see it. Everything doesn't just pop up and happen after you put it in the microwave and press the button and it comes out 5 minutes later. You know, people talk about what we're not doing on city council. Right now, there are streets that I've been fighting to get redone, get in the program to be rehabilitated for over 10 years. But that's the process. And we have to be steady in pushing those forward because there's always others who's going to try to bump that project for their own project, such as a dog park.
I meant to ask you about the dog park. Where does the dog park fall on your list?
I have a dog. I have a dog. His park is in my backyard. If I want to walk him, I walk him on a leash around my street. But that's just me. I'm not knocking the dog park. But how can you talk about a dog park when you have sewer bubbling in a sewer pipe? Right. Or when you have water standing in a ditch for weeks at a time?
And you can't flush the commode.
Yes. So
that's not a priority.
But see, all of this takes money. Money from a budget. Right. And if revenues are down in the budget and we're trying to maintain a balanced budget, which we have to do by law, and we have what we call a reserve, and we have a general fund balance. There are some that want us to bring that fund balance down. And that's what we used when emergencies come about, like the hurricane or like the water issues of recent. Because one of the things I'm hoping is that we can get some relief for those folks who watch their money, those dollar bills just flowing down the streets, coming out of their busted pipes. And some of them couldn't turn off their water. They had to call 311. And some of them had to wait for hours for 311 to come out there. I think we need to give some concession to those individuals that had busted pipes and couldn't turn it off. But back to my point, we want to provide a level of services. We don't want to raise taxes, and we don't want to cut employees. That means we have to plan and move these projects along in a systematic fashion until they reach the top. That's the way we've been doing. It's slow. You know, some folks say, well, what are y'all doing about these pipes? We spent $25 million on our sanitary sewer system. $5 million just for pipes alone, to bust the old pipes, get new pipes in. That's the way we have to do. We only borrow when we have that. We borrow every year. Well, not every year. It's like every 2 or 3 years. But when we do borrow, that impacts our budget. So those are the things that a lot of people don't understand. This microwave, we just don't have a microwave. It takes time.
Okay, I want to ask this question before we move forward. A little too far in the conversation. You just mentioned that.
Francis, we can't we
Can
can't
you
hear
hear me
you.
now? Can you
Yes,
hear me
that's
now?
better.
Yeah.
That's
I'm
better.
sorry, guys. I've been too far away from the mic, but I heard you mention that you've been working on some of the projects and initiatives for about 10 years. What can your constituents do to help you move forward in that process?
They have take it upon themselves. Come to council meetings. No,
Uh-huh.
It takes
no, let me back up. First, I need 3 more.
right.
Uh-huh.
It takes 4.
It takes 4. I need 3 more. Everybody gets 4 votes. They get to vote for the mayor. They get to vote for 2 city council members at large, and they get to vote for a district representative. That makes
Right.
4.
So it's the numbers.
It's the numbers.
All right.
And
All right, people.
it's 4. That's the first thing.
Uh-huh.
We only have 2
Gotcha.
that are from this community, that understands this community. And the 2 of us understand equal treatment is not equitable.
Mm-hmm.
Because Ward 3 and Ward 4 are the oldest areas of the city. We don't want to get the same amount of funds that they get in Ward 2, because that's not equitable. Because Ward 2 doesn't have the aging infrastructure that exists in Ward 3 and Ward 4.
Uh-huh.
They don't have to deal with the same things we have to deal with. But until there are 4, until there are 3 more that believe like me.
Uh-huh.
The most you had on council that believe like you was probably the max was 2, right? So really much not too much you can do.
Right. And I was just going to say, she said something about the 10 years, and you were getting ready to say that people need to come to the city council meetings. But in my mind, I'm thinking even if we showed up to the city council meetings, because, you know, me and you, we did some stuff at the city council meeting, they still bypassed us. It don't matter if you don't have that 4.
You know
Right.
why? You know why? They're going to get mad for a while, but they get over it. You got to be consistent. You got to be committed.
Yeah.
In the sunshine and rain, make your demands.
Mm-hmm.
Change requires demands.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to be with the numbers. Because I tell you, I can say, I know one, well, I'm not going to go there. Just look and you see who comes in your community. Who do you see consistently in your community? If they care, you'll see them there. I'm there in the storm.
Well, are you going to see these people throughout the year? Or are you only going to see them when it's time to vote?
Some of them you won't even see. They don't even care to come out in time to vote anymore.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah.
Lord.
Yeah, so
Some you'll never see.
you never see Bubba.
Oh.
No, I didn't say that, but I never. I don't even see a sign.
Tony,
Shady.
Knowledge is power.
Tony,
You can say
Tony,
it all.
Tony,
'Cause knowledge is power.
Tony,
Yes,
I'm trying. Don't.
Knowledge is power.
I've never seen
Knowledge is power.
the campaign.
LaDonna, do something with Tony, please.
I can't. He
Hey,
doesn't
baby,
listen to
this
me.
is what it is. This is what it is. We speak what it is. It
Ms.
is what it is.
Ms. Larkin, next question.
Okay. I'm asking this question, Mr. Councilman. What can the council do to promote growth in the city of Beaumont, for the city of Beaumont?
Refocus on the future. Focus on the future and stay true to that commitment to move Beaumont to a better place. At one time, we did that. If you think back, I'm not talking, I understand what people say that we don't need to do things the same old way. I'm not talking about doing things the same old way, but there was a time that our city staff felt comfortable in trying to think proactive and looking at things in the future and saying, why not in Beaumont, Texas? Until we had someone come in to start throwing little flames here and there, for us to put out these fires going on around us. You can't do that. You can't remain focused on that which is in front of us if we're continuously looking for the fires that's been spit out on the side of the road, or looking in our rearview mirror, wondering what's coming next.
Yeah, he's a flamethrower.
So, but I do commend one of the new council members, for I have seen him in my ward. I have seen him vote his conscience. Well, I don't want there to be. I've seen Councilmember Felshaw in Ward 3 with problems that I shouldn't do that. I'm not, okay. That enough said. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, yes, sir. I think
Next
so.
question, Tony.
Yes, next question. I'm gonna ask one question, and that is going to be: do you sense a gentrification going on in Ward 3?
A gentrification going on in Ward
Right.
3? No, I don't. I don't. Not yet. That's going to come after the storm. We've had the storms of hurricanes. We had the storm of pandemics. Now we've had the storm of a winter storm. And we've had the storm on the national level that's been eradicated. And we're now moving in the right direction, on the right path. I don't see gentrification, but one of the best examples I can give, I've watched what's happened in the south end of Beaumont. I've tried to fight against the encroachment and the total suffocation of the life of the south end, the natural progression of growth from ExxonMobil and the growth from the Port of Beaumont, all converging in suffocating the south part of Beaumont. Then you begin to see people move out of Beaumont, leaving vacant properties, along with airship properties, no development on some of those, and much of the property is just blank lots. So I do see opportunities, but we have to be awake. We have to wake up. And we can't keep doing the same old thing the same old way and expect a different result. We got to come together.
Right.
The Eastern Stars and the Masonic Order has to work with the Phi Beta Sigmas and the Kappa Alpha Psis and the A Phi A's and the National Church of AME, the Baptist Church, this Holiness Church. We got to come together. We can no longer afford to be divided because of our faith, our faiths, because of our fraternities, because of our colors or our sexes. We have to come together and find the common thread for us all. What do we all want to do, and how can we make it happen? That's what we got to do.
And I'm getting messages. I'm sorry. I'm getting messages from the people, and they saying, tell Alwyn to speak his mind. The people want to know what he really thinks. Don't hold back and don't look. I'm like, look, while the show is coming to a close, I do want to say this. Do you have anything as far as your platform or as far as your experience and your years on the council that you just want the people to know? Like, if you had to make one final plea for yourself in voting for you, what would be the main thing you want the people to know? Because our listeners are listening and our followers are following, and they email me, they text me on the side, and they like, tell them go for it. So this is go for it. The people want to know.
Well, I tell anybody, there are consequences to every action. There are consequences to me getting up, raising hell at a council meeting, because there are powers out there that can take you out, and they will take you out.
Mm-hmm.
So don't think that that's on television. That's real. But I have faith in my God. I believe he put me here for a reason, and he's put a hedge of protection that has protected me throughout the years. So I say, but there's strength in numbers. You know, if somebody's out there on the front line, don't leave them out there by themselves.
Mm.
And anybody, I say to anybody, if there's anybody out there, you feel like I haven't responded to you in the manner that I should, I haven't done what I said I would do, or you thought I said I would do, I apologize. I'm not perfect. I have my own faults. All I can tell you is I'm committed to making Beaumont a better place for our children. This is my home. I love Beaumont. I'm not going anywhere. This is where I will die and be buried. But I want to do everything I can to make Beaumont a better place for our family. And if I've said or done something to anybody, you let me know. Let's talk about it. Let's get beyond it. Because I have more behind me than in front. And I'm far from perfect, but I will work with anybody to make Beaumont a better Beaumont.
Well, this young man needs volunteers, and all candidates need volunteers, but we really need to volunteer and help our candidates of our choice. And I want to thank AUDWIN Samuel, Councilman Award 3. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
One more thing.
Yes.
And I want to applaud all of these young folks that stepped out there. I applaud you. But y'all, please, you got to know it. You got to know some stuff. Study. If you want to get in, you got to understand it.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Get involved and be a student of it. Okay, that's enough.
I agree with you with that. You know, of course, you know, you got to get involved, get into a campaign, and get under their arms and kind of watch what's going on and study the law, study what goes on before you jump into the frying pan, because they will eat your lunch up. So with that said, any last one thing you want to share with us before we close? Thank you so much for accepting our invitation.
Thank you for allowing me. Thank you.
Councilman AUDWIN Samuel, Ward 3, Beaumont councilman, who's running in the May election of this year. And of course, again, I'm going to remind you, they need volunteers. You young people out there, let's get out there and volunteer. Let's put a hand. Let's learn how the game is played. Get out there and learn something. Then you can be able to say, okay, now I know if I hadn't run for office, I would have known what it's like to run a campaign. So it's you're never too old to learn. You're never too young to learn. So get out there, people, and let's vote. And one other thing I'd like to say before we close, FEMA is going to be sending me a link of all the benefits that's going to be available. As soon as it's available, you will find them on our Facebook podcast page. That's Knowledge is Power Podcast Live on Facebook, which we have three pages, a podcast page and a group page. So they will be on those pages. So you're going to link in and find out what's benefits to help you with your pipes, your groceries that you lost for no power, things with that. And said, so ladies, my co-host Francis Lockett and LaDonna Sherwood, we'll be back on Tuesday at 8:00 right here on Power Knowledge is Power Podcast Live. How you like us now?
Thank you for watching Knowledge is Power Podcast Live. Be sure to like and subscribe to all Knowledge is Power social media pages.